Do I think that 1090 Jake snitched? Alright, so I guess some paperwork had surfaced about 1090 Jake from when he was in prison. What it was addressing was a grievance that he had wrote while he was in confinement. A grievance in prison is pretty much a formal complaint. It goes to the administration, it could be the warden, it could be classification, it could be a few different people. Now, when things don't go according to protocol via the prison and how it's supposed to be run, you can write a grievance depending upon the situation. It can be the chow hall not serving enough food on the trays, it can be something wrong with your own paperwork and classification, it could be several different things. What he wrote the grievance on was the fact that the officers put hands on inmates when it was unnecessary. Now, this was an incident that he had gotten into. Somebody came up during shift change and hit him with a lock and a sock. Now, if you don't know much about Florida prison and Florida prison guards, especially in the north and northwest region of Florida, let me introduce you to a couple articles. You can take a second and pause and read this if you want. And then there was this whole incident too at one point in time. They have no issues whatsoever putting their hands on you. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes it's justified. Sometimes that's exactly what some of these idiots need. So when somebody pulls a move like that right in front of the officer station, because this is an open bay dorm, everything's in pretty much plain sight. You might have one or two blind spots, but you're going to have some very pissed off officers, especially at shift change. You got one shift ready to go home that now has to stay an extra hour or two to fucking fill out all the paperwork. And you got the next shift coming in starting their day with this nonsense too. So the officers saw the incident unfold right before their eyes, and they're both going to confinement anyway. So to de-escalate the situation, they probably put hands on a few other people too. And probably under the threat of violence, they threatened these guys to write statements basically on what they had already seen and what unfolded anyway. It's definitely a lose-lose situation, and you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Let's say you've got a 3-year sentence to go ahead and complete. You find yourself in this incident afterward. 10 guards are probably in the room with the captain. The captain says, hey, you're going to sit here and you're going to sign this statement. This is what it's going to say. If not, if you don't sign it, all these 10 officers just saw you take a swing at me. Now you're probably looking at another 3 to 5 years on top of the 3 years that you already did. So he chooses the lesser of the two evils in his mind, because either way it's kind of a lose-lose situation, takes his L, goes to confinement, and when he gets to confinement, he writes this whole situation. Now, is writing that grievance and exposing what really happened on those officers considered snitch? That's honestly going to vary upon how different people see different things. Some people think a statement is a statement is a statement is a statement, and you should have never fucking opened your mouth in the first. Meanwhile, others would sit there and say, basically, if I got the shit kicked out of me, or a friend of mine or a family member of mine got the shit kicked out of them wrongfully in prison, should those officers be held accountable? I personally say some of these systems exist for if somebody broke into my house and tried to assault me or my family members, number one, I'm going to self-defend. And number two, I'm going to call the fucking cops and I'm going to write a statement about exactly what happened. If for no good reason an officer just abuses his power and just drags me out of the car and starts beating the shit out of me, I would want him to be held accountable. And I say all this because I was actually at that same institution at a different time, and I went through a situation just like at that time. Though I just decided to lay down, take all my L's, and not even try to retaliate in any way, shape, or form, because I was fighting a broken system and I couldn't. But what do you guys think? Sound off in the comments.